Welcome on into the Third Down Analysis podcast. I'm your host and creator of Third Down Analysis, Danny Jackson. I've got two of my good buds here, Alex Hymas and Spencer Cornett. And thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having us
here, buddy.
Yeah. So Alex is a friend, as they say in the podcasting world. Alex is a friend of the pod. Spencer is a new friend of the pod. But I worked with them a while ago, a long time ago in a galaxy far away, and they've got. We used to have quite a bit of those corner office sports conversations, and these are two guys that I knew understood. They understood sports. They understood how to interpret data and how to interpret the story that's happening there. And I had some of the best conversations with these guys, which is why I've got them on here. Spencer's also, for those of you who haven't heard him before, he's also he's our visual beauty, I think is how he described himself.
I'm the pretty face.
He's the pretty face for the pod. That's right. So yeah,
that's right.
And he's also, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone be so bold with their team in challenging team executives when they were rival teams, right? I'm thinking of Seahawks and Broncos. This is going back a ways, but
yeah, me and Jeff we're still tight. We still communicate in text, so I didn't burn any bridges there.
Good.
Which is saying something considering how Super Bowl 48 went.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that one, but
I would love to relive that if you guys want to. I got my Seahawks Super Bowl champion hat right here.
Oh yeah, I see another Seahawks. I could
swap. Yeah, I could. Yeah, and that's for when they won the division last time. So
yeah,
I mean, if you want to turn this into a Seahawks podcast, I'm game.
Yeah, well, maybe next time. So before we jump into the content, Alex, we did not do this with you the first time, but typically on the pod, because I'm not sponsored, yet, I do a pun read. So I've got a couple for you guys here. All right, Spencer, this one is this one's for you.
Okay.
Why did Shakespeare always write with a pen?
Why?
Because pencils made him ask to be or not to be.
Oh my god.
Okay, Alex, this one's for you. Which building has the most stories?
Library.
Oh, but
He got it.
That's an easy one.
That's a good one though.
That was impressive.
That is good.
That was impressive. All right, well, gentlemen, so a couple things we may cover today. We'll kind of wander and meander, but Big 12 naming rights, I want to start here. So, and I definitely want to get your thoughts on, this has been a few days now, so I definitely want to get your thoughts before we jump to like what I'm hearing, the typical conversation points, which are this is ruining college football, or this is absurd, or people have a lot of mixed reactions, which I can understand both sides. But before we go there, I'm curious to know, what are some of the names that you guys would propose? Now I don't want you to feel constrained to Allstate, right? If you've got one with Allstate, that's fine, and we'll keep it appropriate. But
we have to keep it appropriate.
Yes.
Then I probably have to scratch my first one.
Okay. Yes. Something you're okay saying, over the pulpit at church.
What? You don't know me well enough to have that be the limit, man. I've sworn over the pulpit at church.
Oh, okay. Well,
but bar's pretty low, so we're good.
I'm the reason they have that kill switch up there.
Oh man. Okay, there you go. Alex, let's start with you.
All right. We can popcorn. I've got four. This first one I didn't make up. David Ubin from The Athletic did. I thought it was great. What a conference.
Instead of Whataburger. Oh my gosh. I love
So I like that. If we can get a Whataburger in Utah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's a good one.
All right, Spencer.
So I did, obviously a little research here. And I actually uh, looked to see like some of the popular franchises and businesses in some of these Big 12 states. Okay.
Yeah.
And one that kept popping out for whatever reason was Rent-A-Center.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Their tagline, try it before you buy it. And so my idea was to have Rent-A-Center be the corporation that, gets the naming rights. And they would just call it the Big Rat Conference. RAC. Rent-A-Center.
Oh, that you know what though? What's beautiful about that is when they go talk with CVC in their private equity and conversations. Hey, try it before you buy it.
Right. I thought it was pretty perfect considering where the conference is kind of at, right?
I like that one quite a bit. So I'll jump in here. One that I thought of. I know that there were a lot, probably some by Dr. Pepper, but Dr. Pepper in Texas, Spencer's got some. Now this is not football related, but we know that the Big 12's great basketball brand. So I thought, how about the Sweet 16 sponsored by or presented by Dr. Pepper? Right, we can rectify that there's now 16 teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's the
that's the
sweet
weird
one.
thing.
It's the sweet one. We get the Sweet 16 basketball.
Yeah.
Every Big 12 team gets an automatic bid into the Sweet 16 because of that, right? Dr. Pepper can just buy
I
their
think
way
that's
in.
got to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So Ross Dellinger said that the conference wants to keep 12 in the name. So whatever name they go with, they want to keep 12, which makes absolutely no sense to me because, to your point, we're 16 for now. So anyway, we're keeping the 12. So the rest of mine all have 12 in it, even though it doesn't make any sense.
That's okay.
Quorum? You're going to call it the quorum?
Well, I tried to go down that route, couldn't find a good one. But I like that. I didn't think about that one. First one. Everyone thinks that the Big 12 is just a bunch of flyover states, right?
Yep.
Right.
Kind of is. Makes sense that an airline might have the naming rights. This conference name actually sounds really good. The United 12 Conference.
Ooh, I like that.
I actually think that's a great conference name.
Yeah. So
that's a pretty good one.
Here in Chicago, if you drive the 294 or the 90 to O'Hare, United and O'Hare have quite a few Brian Urlacher billboards, such as United Hairlines.
Yeah.
Right. He was bald.
He's bald.
But no longer.
I get it.
No longer. He's got hair like you, Spencer.
Yeah. No one's got hair like me, Danny.
Okay. Well.
Remember?
That's right. That's right. He's
All right.
okay.
So my next two. These ones are less serious.
Okay.
Caterpillar, big company, right? The Dig 12.
The Dig 12.
Right?
That's good.
You really put some thought into these, man.
Hey, I came prepared. The
Yeah,
last
you did.
one. Go with me here. I thought of what are famous 12? What are organizations that are correlated to 12? Thought of the Quorum. Probably not going to use that one. Thought of tribes. Probably couldn't figure out a great way to do that. How about the steps? 12 steps.
Oh.
I think this should be called the AA 12-step conference.
You know what? There's a lot of religious affiliation in the conference, right? Part of the 12-step program is, believing in some sort of higher power outside yourself to help you. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I mean, we can workshop the name, but I like the AA 12 steps somehow in there. But I really think that we should think long and hard about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. You got Alex breathing fire here.
Yeah, he's crushing it. I did not go the 12 route at
Okay.
all. I went more along the line. Well, you heard my probably my best one, run to center, right?
That's a great
But
one.
but the other two that I kind of thought of. So as I was kind of looking into, the states that make up the Big 12 now as well, right? Um, there was a common theme that was popping up of, most popular purchases in those states and things like that. Uh, there are more Ford F-150s sold in Utah than any other car. Same
Yeah.
in Texas, same in Oklahoma, same in Kansas. So I would think that Ford would probably be one that would want to engage in those conversations, right? It is a conference that, spans across the heartland of America where Ford is known to be doing a lot of business. And I know that they're, Big Ten country up in Michigan or whatever, but I could foresee Ford getting into the naming rights somewhere. But knowing that they want to keep 12 in there, I don't know how like the Ford 12 sounds or anything like
Mm,
that, right? But um, the maybe the tough 12,
the tough
right?
12. Yeah.
Because built Ford tough. I don't know. Maybe that's the way that you go with that. And then I also thought Dr. Pepper, but I
Okay.
also thought of another DP that's popular in the area, Dude Perfect. Now,
Mm.
part of that is because my kids are home from school right now, and that's basically all I hear all day is them listening to Dude Perfect videos or something like that,
Yeah.
right? So that's probably why that one came to the forefront. But I figured, DP could be involved in the naming rights somehow. They're building that huge campus out there right in the middle of the conference.
Mm.
They're not hurting for cash,
No.
so
No.
they could probably, make some noise with that.
Ah, gentlemen, you brought some great names to the table. Two others I'll add. Any Beatles fans? Eh,
Oh yeah.
I mean, we have ears and a heart.
okay. Okay. Yeah. This was Dr. Pepper was a common theme, so I thought um, instead of Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, it'd be Dr. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Band of, and then here's the thing: is Hearts, so Love's headquartered in Oklahoma City, definitely part of the Big 12 footprint. So you would bring in them as like a co-sponsor with the logo with the heart. And then another one
I'll be
that
honest, Danny, I don't love
that's okay. That's
it.
okay.
Well, that's your last time on the
It's
podcast.
it is no, I'm just saying
It's a little
it's
wordy.
it's a little wordy.
Well, the next one's also going to be wordy as well. And these last two were definitely not my strongest ones, but they were creative, and that's worth something. Um, the next one, I would call it the it would the initials like the acronym whatever you call that would be a C, like letter C number two C, and it'd be the C to C conference. This is from C to Shining Sea, because they're almost from one end to the other. Now I think
Almost.
the ACC could actually swoop in and grab that, but and then here's the kicker: go find the guy that's saying "I'm proud to be an American." Uh, and every Big 12 game that you do the national anthem with the flag, and then you play the conference song, which is I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. I don't think I can't remember if it says from sea to
Did you sing
shining
that
sea in
one?
there.
Did you
But
sing that one for us, Danny? It's not ringing any bells.
I'll sing after we're done recording. Okay. Uh, well, that was good. That was really good here. Okay, so I want to jump to another question for you guys. And first, actually, okay, here's one other just quick, creative question is actually I had two others before I get your real thoughts on there. Is there anything that you don't want naming rights to encroach on? Not just conference name, but there's talk about the logos on the field, jersey patches, or are you okay if they're running out there in NASCAR style jerseys
Yeah,
where you can't tell
why
the
not?
name anymore?
That's kind of me. I'm like, why not? It's already everywhere anyways, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure they have a brand name for the pylon cams in the
Yeah,
NFL,
yeah.
right? So like it is everywhere. So I personally think like yeah, nothing should be hands off. It's a different world that we're living in now than, when our fathers were watching football or whatever. So yeah, go for it. Name the crap out of everything. We live. I have absolutely no qualms with it. I mean, the national trophy already has a brand name associated with it too, right? So like, who cares if you have a patch on your jersey, or if the refs are sponsored by Lens Crafters, or some whatever. Like,
Some fans would
I
dispute that, but yeah.
I would, but I mean, like, how if I was Lens Crafters, that's the first call I make, is to that the referees for a certain conference be like, hey, this is gonna be awesome.
That's a great idea,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Honestly, that's a great idea.
And the injury cart by Tylenol or the Red Cross. I mean, there's so many options here, right?
There's so many.
And ultimately, we're paying players now. Amateurism is dead. Market everything. Be the first one to do it. Big 12 needs the money. Let's just completely sell everything.
Yeah, why not? Why not? It's not gonna diminish the product on the field, right?
No, it can only help it. It can
It could
only
only
help it.
help it. Yep, agreed. I love it. One of the other ones I thought of, the BYU, famous for the cougar tail donut,
Yeah.
the Sono Bello cougar tail. It's perfect.
Wait,
You
son of
eat,
a.
you eat it, Sono Bello. They do like the liposuction surgery, and stuff. Like, eat as many cougar tails as you want, and then Sono Bello's got your back, right?
So
What
they would
like
have a booth like right next to the any
Yeah,
cougar
why
tail
not?
stand,
Yeah,
right?
come sign up. Here's three cougar tails on us. We'll see you on Tuesday,
We'll see.
right?
We'll see you during the intermission. We'll see you between the third and fourth quarters.
Yeah, there you go.
I like. Okay, that's creative. Yeah, I was thinking they could. If I was a high end rest, if I was an athletic department, I'd want to reserve one concession booth for a variety of foods. So when you play TCU, I'd want to sell like frog legs. Um, when you play the Buffaloes of Colorado, I'd want to, or maybe you bring in Buffalo Wild Wings, sell some wings, something that would be related to that team that shows what you're gonna eat them.
What do
Yeah, I
you
mean,
do when Oklahoma State comes to town?
Cowboy burger was the first thing I thought of.
Love it, love it. It's perfect.
Yeah.
yeah,
Perfect.
honestly, another half baked idea. Post game press conference, the seat for the coach, sponsored by Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
That's the hot seat.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And
Yeah,
what if
the
like,
possibilities are endless here.
They really are.
oh
Hire
man.
us.
Awesome.
Hire us.
Yeah, well, and depending on how bad they lose, he might have to like eat a certain amount of Cheetos between every question or something like that.
It's possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking a tongue twister for you. If I was Buffalo Wild Wings, I'd go to Colorado because Buffalo is like why if they're not already advertising at Colorado, they should be. But the Buffalo once every time they get into the red zone, it would be they've just entered the Buffalo Wild Wings red zone. That for me, that starts to get a tongue twister between the R's and the W's there. But anyways, okay. Um, any other general thoughts? I mean, I think you just expressed your thoughts there that you're not opposed in general to the naming of the conference, to any merchandise, anything like that.
No, go crazy with it.
Okay.
It's like Alex said, it's a brand new world. Amateurism is dead. These kids are making money, before they even step foot on a college campus, anyways, right? So, I mean, just get creative with it, have fun with it. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be anything that takes away from the game. I think it's only going to be additive.
Okay. Okay. Fair. That's fair. I like it. All right. So I want to move now to uh, private equity here, and a couple questions here. So for those who have been following the story, I think they're in the know. For those who have not, I think the general there have been two stories that I think that have been making headwaves. One is that Florida State has been engaged to some degree with private equity that might help them get out of the ACC. The second story is obviously the Big 12 has had conversations with a group that Brett Yormark has some prior relationships apparently with, based out of, from what I saw, based out of, I think it was either Switzerland or Europe. They've got some ties to quite a bit of international leagues, not just in, well, not in football at all, right? Because there's no international leagues in football. So a lot of different opinions here I've heard. I think the common theme I've heard is a lot of people feel like it is going to ruin college football. But the question I want to ask you guys first off is there anything? Well, I'm sure you've heard some of the cons, or some of the worries and the concerns. But what do you think is getting overblown in terms of concerns? Is there anything that you think is overstated, that is not, you don't think necessarily is going to play out the way that everyone is painting that picture to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things that I don't think make any sense that people are worried about are, first, it's going to tarnish the sport. Guess what? The whole conversation we just had for 10 minutes, sport's already tarnished. Really doesn't matter. Like, it's not going to make it any worse. Um, I mean, there's that piece. The other piece is, I've heard people worry about, okay, we get these private equity overlords coming in. They're going to tell us what to do on the field, who to hire as the coach, who to play, who to recruit. Honestly, I don't think that's going to happen, especially if you go at the conference level. Um, to your point, Chicago Cubs, Houston Astros, Spurs, Tampa Bay Lightning, La Liga, rugby, F1, all of these sports and teams are already in bed with private equity firms. Uh, it's they're not going to have control over what happens on the field. I think that's an argument that just needs to be put to bed.
I agree. I haven't heard any concern that I don't think is a valid one to this point for me. I think they're all overblown. I think that college sports, like if you're worried about someone with money coming in to tell you what to do with your on-field product, dude, what do you think a booster is? Like, like you're just talking about more zeros at the end of the check, right? Like this is something that's been part of college athletics for a long time. People throwing money at it and then thinking that, yeah, that gives me some sort of say over the outcome of the program or whatever. Like, yeah, that's a battle that coaches, ADs, you name it, they've been fighting for decades already, right? They know how to walk in those minefields. They know how to swim in those waters. I don't think it's going to be anything that actually tarnishes the sport. I've heard the argument like, well, then what's going to stop? Like literally, it's you're buying championships. Guess what, man? That is just where you're at. That has been the story of college athletics for a long time. And if you think otherwise, then you're kidding yourself. Like people, yeah, people are trying to buy championships. That is what they are doing. And private equity firms are not going to throw money into a bad product. They're not going to like they know what a good investment looks like. So if anything, you should it I only see it as a positive because it's going to it's going to inject money into, I think, an industry that puts out great products. It's going to shine a brighter light on these schools, on the things that they stand for. It's going to for these student athletes, and it's going to give them connections to people in high places that they never probably could have had otherwise, right? Like it I don't see a negative to this.
So
Yeah.
here's one question. So I completely agree. Fully on board. I think the Big 12 has to do it. I think they have to do it now so that they can beat the ACC to the punch. The biggest goal right now for the Big 12 needs to be widen the gap between 3 and 4 and and narrow the gap between 1, 2, and 3. Right? You want to be closer to 1 and 2 than to 4. And the only way to do that is to win. And right now, unfortunately, the only way to win is more money. And whether that's calling your conference the All State Conference or the RAC, whatever Spencer said, like that, or getting in bed with private equity, that's great. Do it and do it now so that you can
Right.
become a player. My one question though is we have all three of us worked for companies that have been owned by private equity firms or at least heavily invested in them. They're not generally in the business of throwing money around, and they frankly like to tighten things up. My question becomes, yeah, it's a great investment, and I've heard and read, okay, they're going to get in now because they believe the 2031 contract that the Big 12 is going to sign is going to be, such a big return for them. How is that money going to how is it going to be returned, right?
Mm,
Because the athletic departments are not in the business of putting money aside into savings. They're spending every single dollar that they get. So suddenly we get this inflow of cash. How does that work? Are they now this private equity firm, CVC Capital? Are they the 17th member unofficially of the Big 12? And we're splitting everything 17 ways moving forward? That's the one piece
yeah.
that I'm not sure is being discussed enough because I don't know what the end game is for that firm.
Yeah. It,
I mean,
it,
there'd have to be some sort of revenue splitting and
You
that
would
they
think.
right that they highlight in those deals. But Danny, what were you gonna say?
so I was gonna say, let's hold that thought before we jump back into that really good question. I've got one for both of you guys. This
Mm.
actually isn't a question. This is a intermission pun read. I started reading a book about mazes. I got lost in it.
But
Yeah. Okay, so Alex, you had just asked this question to both of us, and Spencer, I'd love to hear. Yeah, Spencer liked that one.
I did. It got me.
Okay. Sometimes it's a slow burn.
Your delivery is what got me though.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. So, Alex, you had just teed up essentially. I mean, if I'm going to summarize here, is how are they going to get their money back?
Yeah.
And I mean, I am by no means tied into the private equity world, right? And I don't know what a typical agreement looks like for them when they come in and they invest in an entity. But I think Alex kind of touched on the most likely way that it would work out is they would be a partner in the revenue like sharing deal, right? Like they bring X amount of revenue to the table and then they get I don't know if it's 1/17th share. I mean, it would obviously like depend on the money that they put in, right? And how Yormark can negotiate that. But I will say this, man, Yormark is a mad scientist. So I would have full confidence in him walking into any negotiation to get a deal that is going to be beneficial for the the schools in the conference. And obviously, those PE firms, they're going to make sure that they get their stuff out of it too, right? So I, I don't know if that's the thing that holds it up. Um, I would imagine there might be some other things that could potentially hold it up with, you know, just the legality of it. I don't know how you like. I, I haven't looked enough into it to know like what kind of avenue there is for a collegiate conference to tap into private equity. I mean, it seems like it's easier for professional team to do it. Um, just because some of the rules that these universities and institutions have to run by, they don't make common sense, right?
Yeah.
They don't pass that common sense test. So I don't know but if you can find a way to make it work, I say make it work. Because Alex, I think you're exactly right. I don't think this is necessarily, I don't think this is a move that's going to bring the Big 12 up in line with the SEC or the Big 10. I think it's a move that you do to kill the ACC.
100%.
And here's the thing about being in the SEC or the Big Ten. You can sit back and you can let the Big 12 kind of be the guinea pig and see how they make it work, and then go get your own, right? Because it's really all about winning. Like, that's what's going to bring the returns.
Yeah.
Is winning. And if we take a look at, like, college football is the moneymaker. Let's not kid ourselves. That's where all of the money's at. And there's even so much more money now with the playoff schedule and the way that it's shaping up. The new Big 12 has played in a total of 3 playoff games.
Yeah.
In collegiate
it's not
football.
great.
It's not great. It's not great. The Big 10 has like 17. Alabama has like 14 games just by themselves, right? So, like, everyone's playing catch up at this point. But that is how you measure success in college football now, is in those playoff appearances. Like, not like you don't even have to be winning in those playoff games per se. You just need to be there. And you know, that's really what I think is gonna all kind of boil down to is it is gonna still come down to on-field success. You have to win in order to make this type of thing work. And that's why I go back to the original argument of no, this won't tarnish the game. If anything, I think steel sharpens steel, right? It's going to actually, I think, create a better on-field product.
I love what you guys are saying, and one thought that's crossed my mind is I'm going to start by looking out really far in this comment before I reel it back, but I think one way to getting to more of a unified league. Alex, we talked last time about that proposal, the 70 plus 10 type of league. We got 70 the power schools, 10 that are from the lower group that are every year coming in through relegation. Well, if one conference starts to get some of their equity consumed by a private equity company, and then another conference does, and then the Big 12, the next time they go to the table, the next time their deal comes due with this private equity company, another company comes in and takes maybe a bigger chunk potentially. I think what you could see is private equity taking more and more large chunks until eventually private equity takes all of college football in some kind of conglomeration manner, where then you have a unified platform where you can then create like a board, you can create a governing body. I think that's one way to get to a centralized type league. But I think that's a low % chance, but that's something that I've thought about that could be out there. A couple of things that's crossed my mind with like concerns that people have is that you've got the conference entity, which is set up different than the schools, and the schools are participating in the conference. And so this deal, as I understood it, is that the CVC would own part of the conference, of which the member institutions are members. But you've got public schools in this conference, and I don't think that you're going to have, this is what you were talking about, Spencer, is there are going to be a lot of just legal barriers to a private equity firm trying to make and influence decisions. So I think that fans can feel like there's actually a little bit of a buffer there because, for instance, so private equity, they're going to make their money back either through, like if you look at the income statement, it's either going to be on the revenue or it's going to be on the cost. It could be a combination. I've heard some people say private equity is going to come in and get rid of girls' sports, going to get rid of lacrosse, men's hockey, whatever, all these things. But again, for a public school, I think that's going to be, one, they don't own part of the school. And two, I just think that there would be quite a few legal battles. I don't see this as a cut cost and get value there. I think that CVC and it's possible that the details of this report leaked because Brett Yormark is saying, "Hey, we're open for business." So if there's another PE firm out there, if there's another company that wants to buy our naming rights, we're open for business, right? And maybe there's a higher bidder. I think Yormark and CVC see the Big 12 as an undervalued brand. And if they're actually really working through a deal, I think that means that they've got a plan, they've got a revenue plan or an idea of a plan that says this is how we get to 2.5, or this is how we go from 2.5 billion in media rights to 5 billion in the next 6 years. And if CVC's got connections with La Liga and all these other rugby, all these other international international leagues, I don't think it's off the table that suddenly, if you're Yormark, you've got access to, like, can you create a market for the Big 12 football in Europe, in New Zealand, whatever? Like, can you get viewership? Can you get your games aired in those international markets? And all of a sudden, you're starting to pull in more revenue. I think this is how you increase the value of your deal.
Well, Yormark has already looked into that, right? He was floating the idea of playing games down in Central America and stuff like that. Like he's we're talking about this in June, and he was thinking about this in February.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Yormark is just so, he hasn't had a misstep yet in leading the conference. And I don't think this is going to be his first one either. This feels like he's really thought this out. He has been laying the framework for it for a long time. And I think that's exactly the play, Danny. I think he's looking to expand to international markets. He's looking to, expand viewership, because viewership means more dollars, and then that, is just, it's the way to close the gap or widen the gap, like you said, Alex, between yourself in the ACC or yourself in the Big Ten. I think that this has all been part of his plan.
Yeah.
For this entire, for as long as he's, like, as soon as he stepped into that room as the commissioner, I bet he was already thinking about it. Like, how can we do this? So
yeah,
and honestly, that is the nice thing about being the underdog here. He can take some wild swings that the SEC and the Big Ten, frankly, don't need to make, and they never would.
Right.
But he has to, because he has to kill the ACC, and he's in prime position to do it. And I think it's going to be awesome. One final point. Yeah, there could be some issues with public universities, everything else. Here's what I know. PE firms are already investing in government contracts and in companies that are government services. So it's not unheard of for them to be in those markets anyway. The other thing is there's a lot of money on the table. And the one thing I know is if there's a lot of money on the table, politicians will do anything possible to get that money, even if it means changing some laws. I'm not worried about it.
Love it. Okay. Anything else you guys want to say?
Danny, you live in Chicago. You should know that as much as anybody.
Oh, yeah. We'll do another podcast another day on politics. Anything else on private equity before we jump to hot takes? Okay.
Privatize it all.
Privatize it all. There you go. There you go. All right. So I'd love to hear BYU hot takes. Here's one question for you guys, because I'm hearing this, and actually I put out some content recently on thirddownanalysis.com about BYU basketball putting pressure on BYU football, because I'm starting to hear people talk about BYU being a basketball school now. I think that so I'd be curious to hear what you guys say, but before I ask the question, I'll lead with my one of my opinions is I don't think it's necessarily become a basketball school yet. Like, I'm not ready to say that, because BYU basketball has to has to prove it out on the court, which I think they are going to prove that they're going to be pretty good. I think they're going to be pretty good. But when you have a head coaching change, it opens the door for a flood of Anytime you have a head coach change, anytime you have a CEO change, anytime you have a change in a business of a major figure running a department or an org, it opens up more doors for more change to happen. And it's a little bit trickier. Like, were they going to force Mark Pope out if they had people waiting in the wings? I don't think that's BYU's style necessarily, to force a coach out like you would see in the ACC in basketball, the SEC in football. So I just think that the timeline of when basketball got its huge infusion of cash, particularly Big 12 cash, it came sooner than football. Though football had a little bit of investment by bringing in Jay Hill and shaking up the defensive staff. There's other factors why I'm not ready yet to say that, BYU BYU football is going to be dead forever. I think BYU basketball is actually going to surprisingly be so much better than I even could imagine. But what are your guys' thoughts on pressure that basketball is putting on football? And do you buy into BYU being a basketball school now?
BYU is a basketball school.
100%.
It is a basketball school. I don't get
100%.
Yeah, you think it's always been a basketball school?
I think it is.
Right now.
It is now. 100% right now. You cannot convince me it's not a basketball school. Tell me the last time that BYU football pulled in the number of 4- and 5-star guys that BYU basketball has in the last 6 weeks. It has never happened. And ultimately, for anyone comparing what's happening with basketball team and saying, hey, football team should be on a similar trajectory, you're fooling yourselves. Mm-hmm. There's 5 guys on the court at a time playing basketball.
Yeah.
And we have now collectively, I don't know how much, who's the guy we got today? Cushing?
Catchings, yeah.
Catchings. I don't know how much. I don't know what the dollar amount was for him to pull him in. It's probably near $2 million, just like Igor that we got. They came in at about 1.8. I mean, the amount of cash coming to these guys is ridiculous. That being said, 2 guys that are going to be top 20 NBA draft picks probably next year coming to your team, you now have changed almost half of your starting lineup to these super high talent. You cannot do that in football with 2 guys. It's not going to make a difference.
No, but you see kind of the same thing play out in the NBA and the NFL, right? You can turn around an NBA franchise like that with the right caliber player coming in. While the NFL, you have 11 starters on offense, 11 starters on defense, and then you have special teams you have to round out, and you have 53 guys on your roster, right? It's just, and that's why the CBAs are the way that they are for the NFL versus the NBA, right? Like, it is just like there's more guaranteed money, and it's just a lot more of a crapshoot, and you have to hit on a lot of, just really lucky shots on the NFL to turn a team around real quickly, right? And so, I think I 100% agree with you, Alex. I think BYU is a basketball school already. I don't think it has to do with just necessarily the timing of the money, coming through or whatever. I think that this is, I think Ryan Smith's a basketball fan.
Amen.
He owns a basketball team.
He owns the Jazz, and I know he's bringing in, he owns the soccer team. He's bringing in hockey. He's a sports fan. You can make the argument he's a sports fan. But who did he go after first? He went after the Jazz first, right? He's a basketball fan.
Well,
BYU is becoming a basketball school. BYU is a basketball school.
And I've got it from really good sources that Danny Ainge is spending almost as much time trying to gather booster money for the BYU basketball team right now as he is on actually building a contender in the Jazz.
In the Jazz.
I mean, the fact is, Ryan Smith is behind all of this in one way or the other. You like him, hate him, I don't care. The BYU basketball team is landing these guys and landing Kevin Young because of Ryan Smith.
Dude, that Kevin Young hire, man.
No, it's amazing. And honestly, that's the other piece that we should not compare this to football. I've got my issues with Kalani. I'm not sure he's the best tactician in the world. Actually, I know he's not, right? He still may be the right coach. I am certainly not saying that BYU can frankly even do much better, although Jay Hill is the best coach on the team by a mile. It's not even close.
Yeah.
But there is not a Kevin Young sitting out there right now that can turn around and build an NFL pipeline the way that he is trying to do for the basketball team right now. Andy Reid is not coming to BYU, and he's not going to do the same thing that Kevin Young is doing. It's the best hire BYU's had in probably 25 years.
I think that's being generous. I think you can go back farther than that. I think
I
go back to the Lavelle. To when
and
Lavelle
we haven't
was
even
hired.
played a game yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are flames right there. But it makes sense, though. I think what I'm hearing from both of you is don't compare the two. You're saying BYU is a basketball school now, but don't compare the two because BYU football is on its own trajectory. It's a whole nother animal to turn that ship around. And coming into the Big 12, they were facing quite a mountain compared to BYU basketball was also facing a mountain, but they had a lot returning, coming back, and it's a different animal. Okay.
Yeah. So, sorry to turn your football pod into a basketball love fest here, Danny, but yeah,
It's tough, man. I was
tough.
like, before hopping on this podcast, I was just scrolling through my Twitter feed, looking at all the stuff about BYU basketball, and it's June. It's June.
Yeah.
The NBA season just ended, and we're talking BYU basketball, not football. We're not talking about, fall camp right around the corner. It's because that's where all the buzz is right now, man.
Well, it's been like that since April. I mean, football. This is typically BYU football time, right? We're getting pretty close here to. We're about 6 weeks out from fall camp, and usually this is when you start here. I'm not in Utah anymore, but like the what is it, the 60 and 60 or the 100 best football players? They're probably still doing that right now on the radios, but there's usually.
I'm sure they're gonna do it this year.
Yeah, there's usually more traction on there, and but you're right. That's not okay. So, Alex, you said Jay Hill is the best coach on BYU. All right, that might have been a hot take like 18 months ago. It's not as hot of a take anymore now because it's definitely a growing theme among fans. I'll just put you on the spot. If you're in Tom Homo's seat, what do you do if BYU goes 4-8 this year?
Well, my other hot take is BYU won't make a bowl game for 3 more years.
More years, okay.
At least 2. I have written down 2026. I could be convinced longer. I think Jay Hill will be the head coach in the next 2 years.
And is A-Rod still the offensive
I don't know any of that.
You don't know
All
that?
I know is I don't think so. All I know is that Jay Hill brought a level of now. Can Jay Hill be a head coach? I don't know, but there's enough. I like Kalani. I think as a recruiter, he's good.
What do you think Jay Hill was doing up in Ogden?
Okay, well I know, but it's Weber. Okay, but
it's a head coach.
It's the same thing. I know. If I were Tom Holmoe, Jay Hill is my head coach sooner rather than later. Now, can he do what Kevin Young does? Probably not. But I don't think that should be the expectation, and that's not the reason you make the move.
Yeah.
I think you make the move because I think we're going to be way worse this year and probably next year too.
You think we're going to be way worse this year? I don't think we'll be worse.
Okay.
But I think the conference is better.
Yeah.
We're splitting hairs here.
The result will be worse. That's what
the
you're saying.
results will be worse.
We won't be a couple of possessions away from being bowl eligible.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So here's my hot take, and it's building on yours, Alex, because I agree. Jay Hill is the best coach on that squad. Jay Hill is going to turn the BYU defense into a top 30 defense this year.
This year, wow.
He's going to scheme it to a top 30 defense. Now, here's the problem. You have one of the worst offensive coordinators in the Big 12. So you can scheme a great defense and still lose a lot of games. So, and that's saying something because last year they were like the 105th ranked defense in like yards given. I think they were tied for dead last in pressures and sacks.
Yeah, they were. They were.
Um,
Yep.
and so that's where I think Jay Hill puts in his application for the new head coaching job at BYU.
Yeah.
Is by turning the defense into a top 30 defense, but they still, I agree with you, Alex, they don't make a bowl this year.
And honestly, if he turns them into a top 30 defense and they still don't make a bowl game, he
That's
should
kind
be
of
the head coach.
yes, yes, and that's kind of how I'm envisioning it, right? A-Rod, dude, he was a great quarterback coach. But his quarterback room right now, it's kind of laughable.
It's bad.
And say what you want about like I know we were just talking about like yeah, there's 22 starters. Yeah, but you have to have a quarterback. You in a league like the Big 12, if you don't have someone that can just sling it and can, march your team down and score some freaking points, you are just going to get boat raced unless you have a top 30 defense. Right?
Yeah.
So
there's a reason why Utah and Utah fans were totally fine with him coming down south to BYU.
Yeah, and there's a reason why they hated the Jay Hill hire.
Yep.
Right? They saw him as the heir apparent to to taking over in at Utah, not the other guy that's says bad words.
Oh. Oh yeah, yeah. What I think you described, Spencer, is Heartbreak City is what I think fans are going to feel this year if what you said happens, because BYU's schedule I think is the hardest in the Big 12, and they're going to face the best offenses in the Big 12, and so if they have a top 30 defense, that means the games are going to be close, and BYU fans are going to be really frustrated on the offensive side of the ball, because
that's 100% what I think is going to happen.
It's going to be games like 17 to 7 or something like that, and we can't. You won't. So, one of the things that I'm watching this year is the point differential, because BYU had one of the worst point differentials in the Big 12 last year. They were, if you look at the new Big 12, I think it was BYU and Arizona State that both had, or BYU might have been the only school that had over 4 losses that were over 28 points last year. And so, to me, if BYU shows that they close that differential, they may go 4-8, but they may have 6 losses that were by 7 points each or something like that. Then I think you if I'm Homo, I'd probably keep Solani, but the offensive side needs to have some change. But I just think that the quarterback position is going to be really bad. Like Retzlaff was, I looked up his completion percentage last year. It was just about 50%. That it was the second worst in the Big 12 over the last 3 years by a mile, and of quarterbacks who threw like over 100 passes. So I'm not convinced that he's improved tremendously, because he's not the clear starter. And Bohannon, I'm not convinced that he hasn't regressed tremendously, because he's not the clear starter. So
tell me, like Bohannon or Slovis, who do you think was the better quarterback?
Bohannon or Slovis?
Yeah, one like because Slovis is kind of the same thing, right? Like brought him in after like on his 3rd tour for one last hurrah.
Slovis is the better quarterback.
I think Slovis is the better one. I think Bohannon, with Bohannon's running ability, not that he's like a tremendous runner, but that might lend itself a little better in A-Rod's system. But I think there's other problems. Like I'm not convinced the offensive line's fixed yet.
Dude, yeah, but what I'm saying is like the quarterback room's worse this year,
Well, yes, I agree.
not better.
I agree.
And look what Slovis did last year. And Slovis
Agree.
like Slovis was an athlete. You saw the numbers he put up at the combine. Like he wasn't like some guy that they pulled in from the stands to try to sling it. Like
Yeah.
he was an athlete. He was a quarterback. And he was just stuck in the mud here. And I, yeah, I think that is a question that A-Rod has to answer, right? Like he has to show that he's got the chops to be an offensive coordinator. Because what we saw the last couple of years, even what he did with Jaron Hall, right? Jaron Hall is an NFL caliber quarterback. He's in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
But what did we do with him?
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, we did nothing. Yeah. No, I'm 100% with you. I think what's interesting is, and part of my hot take on the bowl game is looking at track records of teams going from G5 schools to a Power 5 conference. You look
Yeah.
at the U and you look at TCU. Both of them came in and had a relatively okay year their first year, probably running on adrenaline and probably because they had a lot of good players and really good coaches. They then both struggled for 2 years after that first year. They had losing records, didn't make bowl games. It was the fourth year that both of them respectively got back to where they had been historically because it took full recruiting cycles to get there.
Yeah.
The one thing that the two things those two schools had that BYU doesn't have, they were better than BYU was when they joined those conferences, and they had better coaching than BYU did. So I think Jay Hill is fantastic, but it's going to take more than just Jay Hill to fix this, unless he's the head coach and we start bringing in better talent. That's my final word on it.
That's flames. And any other hot takes you got, Spencer?
I had one here about what it would take to bring Jeff Grimes back. Because I think that would be so. The way that I kind of envision it is, I think, kind of similar to what you're seeing, Alex. Is Kalani maybe has a couple years left until the seat's either really hot or he's gone.
Yep.
I think Jay Hill makes the most sense. And then from an offensive coordinator's perspective, we haven't had a better one than Grimes.
No.
And he's kind of bouncing around a little bit right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like we'll see what he does in
Yeah.
Kansas. He's got some great talent at Kansas this year, which you would
Yeah.
I mean, how weird is that to say about their footbal
It's
team?
wild.
But he's got some great talent to work with. So that might be a pipe dream. But who knows? Maybe Ryan Smith becomes a big football fan and he brings out the checkbook to bring Grimy back to Provo.
That might be what it takes.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming on today. This won't be the last time we do this. This was great.
It was fun.
And we'll see. We'll do this again in 2026, and we'll check up on your hot take, Alex, and see if BYU made it to the to a bowl game or not.
I hope I'm wrong. I bought season tickets this year for the first time in a while, so
Yeah.
I hope I am wrong. I just don't think I am.
See, and the Cornett household is buying season tickets to BYU basketball.
Oh,
No.
hey, I'll be doing that as well because I am excited.
So
I'm
yeah.
way more excited for the Marriott Center to be rocking this fall than
And that's
the
saying
Bell is.
something because I'm a football diehard. I love football.
This man played football at BYU.
Nah, not really.
Well, kind of. More than I did.
Yeah, more than both of us.
That's not saying. I love you guys.
It's not
I
saying
love you guys.
anything.
Let's just edit all this part out.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
See
Dan.
ya.